Attention, everybody. The views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and/or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and/or nonprofits.
And good morning, everybody. It's Friday. Did we say Friday? It's the Johnny Rooster Morning Mouth with Johnny Rooster, your host, and
Pastor Matt.
we have a special guest today. We'll get into that in a moment.
And we do mean special.
Very special. You know, he's a first-timer, so let's go gentle on him. Welcome to the chaos, everybody. This is Friday morning, and Morning Mouth is a show program designed to give you something different, something a little, oh, whoa, hoo-hoo-hoo. You never know. Well, up on the wall, it says, "It's story time, Mama." It's story time, guys. Hey, if you're mature and you're sophisticated, you'll still like this.
Yeah.
But if you're really just a real person with a lot of trouble and a lot of struggles and you can't even talk, you better keep on watching. Well, our guest is a man that I work with. His name is Jody.
Oh, I'm just catching his face there. I'm
How
going
you
back
doing?
and forth.
And it's all good. This is your first time, isn't it, Jody, on the broadcast?
Yeah, it is.
So I thought it was fun to pick on somebody at work and say, "Hey, get over here and be on my show." But what's really cool is Jody has an amazing story. It's quite a heart-wrenching story. So it's not a lighthearted story, but it's an important one. In fact, without making anything about it, I want to just go into this. A lot of you guys that are and ladies out there can relate, and a lot of you can't, but we're all in a human condition, aren't we? So, Jody, I appreciate definitely that you're willing to come on this program and tell people your story, because as you mentioned earlier when we were off air, that this is quite revealing for you because it's the first time you've been able to say this to a public audience.
Yeah, this is
And
the very first time.
so it takes courage, and so just speak up, and we're going to ask you some questions, and you'll just be going. Like, for the first thing I'm thinking about is what kind of what is your favorite type of activity now? What do you like to do when you're not at work? Because I only see you at
Oh,
work.
you know I'm a country boy. I'm
So
fishing.
can I make a guess?
I'm fishing and hunting.
Oh, that was exactly what I was going to say.
Fishing and hunting. Check
I'm-
the boxes.
I'm
I
either
bought a new AR the other day. I'm
oh,
pretty.
oh, dude, them are
Uh,
awesome.
But
I
anyways,
go, I
so-
go floating, fishing, hunting,
Yeah.
anything to get outside.
This is a real outdoorsman, Pastor Matt. We got Jody. What little I do know of him is that he definitely is a hard worker, a dedicated worker, and he's been through challenges and hasn't let that slow him down one bit.
yeah. Well,
So-
that's good.
So without going into a long introduction, everybody keep watching. We're talking, it's story time, and the story is about Jody, a gentleman here that's first time on the air, and he's going to be real with us. Tell us your background. How'd your life start? What happened with your life? Just kind of give us a background of you.
Well, I'm born in Cassville, raised in Monette. My dad was an alcoholic, and he was really abusive to my mom. He used to beat her in front of me until she was almost dead. Been in the hospital, I don't know how many times, and he'd get off the truck and blame her for stuff that he did. And I never understood that. And
So he was an over-the-road truck driver,
yeah,
Come
for
home.
his whole life.
be drunk, abusive physically.
Yeah, he'd accuse her of cheating, and he was the one doing it.
I find that's usually the case.
Yeah,
And,
one people that have this issue are blaming others because they're
They
trying to
want you-
resolve their own.
Well, they want
Yeah.
you to be guilty of it so they can feel justified in
Justified.
doing what they do.
Yeah.
So
and
you have some brothers, sisters, anything?
Yeah, I
like
got 5. I got 2 brothers and 2 sisters, but my oldest sister died when she was 45 of cancer. She was an awesome one.
that? So your brothers and sisters, were they part of all this abusive?
Yeah, it was a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because my little brother and me, we're the only ones that ain't been in prison. The rest of my family, they're all in prison or pretty much strung out.
Yeah. So tell me about your background with the church or anything connected to God and religion.
Well, I grew up in the New Sight Baptist Church in Monette. I know Aaron Weibel's a pastor. I don't know if I say that. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
That's
And,
fine.
He's a pastor. I'm pretty sure he won't mind a little ad.
Nah, he's my bud. I mean, I was in there. I've known
You
him.
grew up in that church.
Yeah, and he always he understood my anger and stuff. Sometimes he'd come talk to me.
Did he know your family situation?
Yeah, he knew my real dad that my mom finally married he was an alcoholic too. My first dad was one that abused my mom. My real dad, he abused the boys. You know, it was pretty rough. But he understood. He come. I've stayed at his house before.
Well, this story time right here, folks, this is the Johnny Rooster Morning Mouth. We're talking to Jody. He's a coworker of mine. It's his first time on the air, and we're really glad to have him here because some of the things that he shares with his story are not as easy for people to understand, and some of them, they're so painful that they relate. So I appreciate you being here. Again,
no
we're just welcoming new people all the time as they're checking in on the internet or wherever they're checking in. Axe Media Group is designed to educate people on social issues, and the Johnny Rooster Morning Mouth is all about something that's a little different from what you see in the headlines normally.
It's like you might learn something along the way.
So it's
yeah.
let's just check this out. Now, people are tuning in. They want to know, okay, you came up from an abusive family, alcoholic father, physically abusive. How did that change your life, and what kind of attitudes and actions did you take growing up because of that?
I was more withdrawn. I didn't really get out there much, I played football, any kind of sport, just to get out where I wasn't in my house. Because if my dad come home drunk and you done something a week ago, he was gonna beat the crap out of you. Oh, excuse me.
You can say that word. You can say
okay.
crap.
Crap's good. No, crap's not good, but crap is not.
I mean, if you don't,
And we grew up on a dairy farm, so there's a lot of things you miss that your drunk dad.
So
come
you're
home
out working on the dairy farm. Your dad's still driving the truck? Is that what was going on?
No,
or
that was my first dad. He
Okay.
just beat my mom. He never touched us.
But then
My
what
real
happened?
dad, we grew up on the dairy farms with him.
Mhm.
My mom got away from my first dad. We was living in Texas for a long time, and then we come back, and she married my real dad. But the only reason I got my first dad's name is because they were married when he went to jail.
So if you're kind of mixed up about this, if I'm
Pregnant.
hearing it right, your parents, the ones that birthed you, were not married,
No.
and then your mom was with someone else,
Yeah.
and then after that time, she got back with the
Yeah.
man who
She married him.
was your biological father.
Yeah.
married
After
him.
she got enough of the abuse, she decided.
But apparently, this biological father wasn't even anything either, as far as.
Nah, he's pretty much an alcoholic, and I mean,
So he's
he was-
not.
and I don't really blame him because he was in a bike wreck. He was on a motorcycle. He stood up at 110 miles an hour and hit a tree head on with no helmet on. And they said he should have never woke up. And every time he'd drink, he just changed from Jekyll to Hyde, He'd get so mean.
Do you think that was a brain injury that caused that, or was that a personality disorder, or
It
just
was
the alcohol?
The doctor told
Drugs?
him he shouldn't do nothing because it's going to affect his brain in a big way. And
You
it
know-
did.
oh.
You could see him. He could drink one beer, and you'd see the change come over. Right in his
Pastor
face.
Matt, you've got some background with some stuff, but I don't understand how a beer can transform somebody into a different person.
Well, there's a lot of things that happen to a person's body whenever they start drinking. The first thing it does is it attacks the part of your brain that causes you to, or that makes you think of repercussions for your actions. What do they call that? My brain just left me on that. But something that makes you think, oh, I better not do this or I'll get in trouble. This
Yeah.
is going to be bad. I shouldn't do this.
so prohibitive conscience.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You've got caution that naturally will prevent you from doing something that you
Right.
wouldn't normally do.
So it attacks that. So then all of a sudden your inhibitions kick in, where you don't care. That gives you the okay to do a lot of stuff that you normally wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of people drink to try and forget, but it doesn't do that. And it depends on the brain chemistry. It depends on what you're drinking. A lot of times it could be how the alcohol is made. Because when I was a drunk, I was a pretty happy drunk. 99% of the time. But I noticed that when I drank these certain beverages, it would make me either A, be really contemplative and depressed, or angry,
Okay.
depending on what I drank. So you would act accordingly. Now, some people, the thing that holds back them from losing their temper, and the stuff that holds them back from overthinking things, that goes away when you start drinking. And then all of a sudden, what would normally the logical part of your brain that says, hey, don't get mad about that, that's crazy, is no longer functioning properly, so you're not listening to it.
Okay, well, folks, if you're just tuning in, this is Morning Mouth on Axe Media Group. Our goal is to bring you something at Morning Mouth. Your host, Johnny Rooster, Pastor Matt here, and our guest, Jody. I just wanted you to know that we're trying to bring you something a little different. It is story time, so let's hear more of Jody's story right now, since we don't have to take a commercial break.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
That's cool, commercial free. So, Jody, you grew up with an abusive father. And also an abusive biological dad.
Yeah.
And did your mom have any other negative reactions to that?
Well, my real dad, he was more mentally abusive to her. He would never touch her.
Okay.
But he'd come in and drag us out of bed and beat the crap out of you for something you didn't do.
Psychological abuse can be worse
Wow.
than
Yeah.
physical abuse.
And
But
I know
why
it
do
really
you think
messed my
your
mom up.
biological dad was physically abusive to the kids? Why do you, just because
Well,
of the
there's
drinking?
Three of us boys, and I guess he figured it easier to beat a boy than it was a woman.
Did you say his dad did act out that way
His
on
dad
him?
his dad was pretty mean too.
Yeah.
And but
So maybe a lot of people watching and listening are relating to an awful traumatic growing up.
Yeah.
And tell how that feels when you're getting into school and getting through the teen years. Tell me about that.
well, my oldest brother, he acted out. He got in fights all the time in school. Me, I pretty much went the other way. I stayed away and I just kept to myself. And it was just, and my little brother the same way. He was a fighter, and I didn't fight because I didn't like it. I never seen anything good come out of it.
Did
But-
you get good grades in school? Did you do okay?
No,
Oh, really?
I just barely passed. I mean, I graduated, but it was the only thing was good at was welding. I made straight A's in welding. Other than that, I made straight C's. in
So you're a
everything else.
hands-on worker. You're a great
Yeah.
worker. I know
I'm
that.
good.
I work with you in a warehouse, and you do an amazing
Yeah.
job there.
That's because I just want to say why I was 5 years old and I stepped out on a highway and a truck hit me. And if it wouldn't have been for the nurse that picked me up and took me to the hospital, I would have been dead. And I know God had something to do with that
Wow.
because I'm still here.
Well, what are some of the most real, vivid memories that you have that you want to share? It could be from any part of your life.
Mostly the abuse. I mean, it's hard to get rid of it. It's hard to shake it. When they beat you every other day or every day, it's kind of hard to get out of your head.
Did you
And I-
eventually start fighting back?
Oh yeah, I fight. I don't like fighting, but I have a real hard time with if people put their hands on me or touch me. Yeah, it's a fight.
Even raising your voice wasn't allowed, was it?
No, you didn't even know. You raise your voice, you get beat.
I've noticed
You
that
smart off, you get beat.
a lot of times when we're working, I'm saying, speak up, and I can't understand you because you're just
Yeah.
kind of quiet. But that's what you were telling me. There's a
Yeah, you're
part of
supposed to be seen, not heard.
Yeah.
I don't relate to living in fear of my biological father. My family
It,
was intact, so we had a different setup.
It really sucks because
Wow.
you want to love them to death, but sometimes you want to hate them too.
Then you want to love them to
Yeah.
death.
Yeah.
Burn
So
'em down.
did you leave home at a certain time? Was it negative when
I
you
graduated and I was gone.
left? Yeah.
I went into construction for 8 years. I didn't look back, but I knew I had problems.
What
I
kind of
drank,
life did you have? Drinking?
drinking, drugging, anything to do with just not feeling nothing. And I went through a lot of friends and girlfriends, and but I had my bike for a long time, my truck,
Yeah.
and I worked for the same guy for 8 years.
Yeah.
I showed up every day. If I got drunk or not, I was there.
Yeah.
I was high or not, I was there.
Did your dad always work?
Yeah,
So he's a worker, but he's a hardcore
drinker.
addict too.
He was a drinker. I mean, the minute he got off work, he'd be drunk.
See, these aren't
plumb
people
drunk.
sitting around living off welfare. These are hardworking people
Yeah,
The
going through
budget.
the horrible.
They
abuse.
budget. They put alcohol in their budget,
yeah, they do.
It's part of the
and that is
picture.
like number one on their budget. That's the first thing that they think about buying.
Was that true of you? Was your dad into drugs or just drinking? Or
Oh, my real dad, he was a drinker.
yeah,
The other dad, he was a drinker and a druggie,
Uh-huh.
but he drove a truck all the time.
Wow.
And my real dad, all he done was drink, and he drank from the time he got off work until he passed out.
So
And,
he just drank and drank like.
Yeah, and he'd come home and stumbling home. I never even know
Yeah,
how he
because
got
I mean,
home.
if you're working on a
He worked on-
dairy farm,
Mhm.
you don't have to worry about getting in trouble for drinking on the job. So you're sitting there just
Yeah.
He's just sitting there plowing away.
Yeah,
has
he
has
does.
the cooler full of beer in
Was
the
it
back of the truck.
Just beer
Yeah.
all day and
Yeah, well, most of the time he'd go to the bar and leave me
Oh,
to finish
wow.
it, leave us to finish up.
wow.
He'd disappear at night for the night milking,
Yeah.
and he'd come home plowed and start plowing on you because you didn't do something right.
Hmm.
But he also
So-
he worked on oil rigs too in Oklahoma. We moved over there
Yeah.
for 4 years, and he worked on the oil rigs, welding and doing stuff like that. And he'd come home just plowed. And if he had a bad day, you'd know it because you was gonna get it.
You just popping in here. This is Johnny Rooster, Morning Mouth. We're doing story time with Jody. He's got a pretty hard story, actually, and a lot of you might be able to relate to someone or yourself having gone through a hard time. But Jody, you're telling me about your background was alcoholic father, physically abusive. What kind of results did that come to when you were on your own in construction? You got out of the house, and that's just catching people up here. For 8 years, you
Yeah.
worked for the same guy.
Yeah.
Was there more trouble in your life after that or during that time?
Well, yeah, I had a hard time with letting people run over me and stuff because I didn't want to be confrontational or fight or nothing like that. And it really made it hard on me. It still does because I still have that problem. I let people use me and run me over. And
What about your connection to the church you grew up in? Was there
Yes,
anything during that time?
oh yeah, I was going to church camp. I went to church camp and I even counseled kids. I had a whole group of kids that I watched through the church camp.
When did you get
As a
involved with
counselor.
drinking and drugs?
18.
Uh-huh.
And after church camp, I really got into it because I felt guilty, and it wasn't my fault.
Hmm.
But, you can say that, but, you control your own life. No matter what. No matter how hard it hits you got to get up.
Yeah. What do you want to say about people that might be listening that have trouble with drinking or drugs? I mean, what changed for you? Are you still struggling with those things, or is there
Well,
something
yeah, you'll
different?
struggle every day. Just to, I had to change my whole. I got to stay away from most of my family that's still on them.
Okay.
I stay away from people that do it because if I don't, it just makes it harder.
Well, if you can be honest, what kind of drugs were you involved with?
Oh, meth, and pot, and I've done ecstasy and mostly meth.
How long did you do that? How
Oh.
long a time frame were you involved?
I done meth for 2 years straight, and then I quit because I met a girl and got married, and
Probably the hardest part of your life happened when that marriage didn't survive.
yeah, 11 years, and she walks out.
No
Mm.
conversation, just gone.
No, I just took my kids and left.
How many kids?
2, a boy and a girl.
How old were they at the time?
Jonathan was getting ready to graduate, and Delilah
Mhm.
was 17.
So they were close to the same age.
Yeah, they was about ready to, and yeah.
Did they get along with you when they were growing up?
Yeah, I never had a problem with them.
And they're just gone.
I worked all the time, and their mom, one day just come got them and left. After work, she come home after work, got them and left. And I was having a hard time. I wasn't working at that time, but I wasn't taking it out on nobody. I just couldn't figure it out, and I still can't. And she won't talk to me, so I don't know how to work it out. And that's been 6 years.
Sometimes people don't have answers in their story, okay? It's not like a clear calling from
That's-
God that
yeah.
everything looks good.
No.
You know what? That's really unsettling for a lot of Christians. Pastor Matt, we have a society that likes to cover up the negative.
Hmm.
If they go to church every week, I know there's people out there that are hurting, but they don't
Yeah.
disclose what Jody just talked about. They don't want to tell the ugly side. They want to pretend
Right.
they go to work and everything's okay.
Yeah. Everybody wants
I'll-
wants people to think that they're that everything's perfect.
But
And
here's
if
the-
that's the case.
Here's a man.
You got to talk to people.
Here's a guy
Yeah,
who's
you
never
do.
been on the air. He's telling his story, and it has a part where his wife took the kids and left, and no communication.
None.
Now we can actually do a part 2 to this.
Okay, yeah,
If
that
you
would be a good secondary. How are we on time?
We have 5 minutes and 15 seconds.
I think it'd be a great time to do a part 2. If you're okay with that, Jody, we can
Yeah, that'd be
hang on
great.
for another
Yeah.
segment.
Yeah,
It
we
helps.
still got about 5 minutes.
What we're going to do is we're going to continue to give some hope to people during
Oh,
the
yeah.
rest of this 5 minutes that we have for this show, and we're going to do this part 2 for the next week. We're going to talk to Jody again and have have it air next week. What I mean is
Yeah,
we're going to
yeah, we-
continue our conversation. So we're not going to wait a week to talk to him again. Okay, you got that. But
We won't wait a week. They have to wait a week.
you
Yeah.
guys are the ones having to wait.
We're gonna know today.
We're on a
We'll even
schedule.
be wearing the same shirt.
Same shirt, different day.
Yeah.
Is that what they say? You know, I'm wearing gray. He's wearing gray. You're wearing black. We're all subdued today. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
it's-
muted colors.
Right.
There's no pop in the set. There's no pretty girls here. This is just a really
Yeah.
3 guys. You know.
Heck yeah.
Hey, keep watching though. You know, we apologize. We're not pretty, but we're here.
Hey,
I don't apologize. I'm just darn handsome.
Yes,
so
he is.
You know what happens.
I know
that
how
way.
it goes.
You know, but you're telling people.
He's like, I feel your pain.
You're telling people, hey, it's a rough life. Some things
Yeah.
don't work out the way you think they will. What's your answer in your own life now to that question of why don't things go right?
Well, it's just part of life. I mean, if you've not got God in your life and asking Him to help, and then go on with your life, and you just got to take it as it goes. I mean, I took care of my dad until he passed away a couple months ago.
And that's still a really tender spot for you, too. Your dad had really messed up his life and
Yeah.
messed up your life.
He's on a dialysis for 13 years.
But then you got close to him at the end.
Reconciliation.
It was
Yep.
wonderful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To get to know him like that. He was the one. You were telling me you're called to be a caregiver. This was
Yeah.
a life-changing event for you. You and your dad, as he's facing his last moments, were getting closer and closer.
Yeah, we was every day. We talk about everything. And it's kind of hard.
I'm glad you were able to do that. I think that's brings healing,
Yeah.
I told him, I said,
especially after the trauma that you'd been
sorry I
through with
wasn't
him.
the greatest son. He said, man, I wasn't the greatest dad. He goes, I know.
And, that's some people choose to be a victim their entire life. And
Sure,
you
blame.
didn't.
You didn't
No,
blame.
didn't.
No.
And
I
you
didn't.
forgave. And, forgiveness.
Yeah, because I watch my sisters and my brothers, and they can't forgive for some reason. They just hold it in.
No, they're the ones
I
that are
don't get
still got hang-ups. They're still
Yeah.
apart from God. They're still in trouble with the law or whatever. They still got
Yeah.
drug issues. Okay,
And their own kids are the same way.
wow.
My
Well,
oldest brother, all 4
Stor-
of his kids are in prison.
Story time with Morning Mouth today has been a hard story. It's been a story that includes a lot of loss, but forgiveness at the end. Jody had grown up with an abusive father and was able to get close to him when his father was gravely ill and then passed away recently. And this was a very close reconciliation time. And I encourage you to reach out to people in your family if they are hurting, if they're addicted, if they are dying. A lot of people have issues like that in their family. Please, what would you say as we're finishing this segment? What would you say to people who have a family member that's not long left on this earth, or they're addicted? What do you do?
You need to get close to them and help them as much as you can, because they ain't going to be around much longer. And the drugs nowadays ain't nothing. They just make them and kill you with it. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't take care of them, or you're going to have to tough love some of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones on the drugs, you're going to have to just, if you don't, they're going to take everything you got. They're going to do what they can.
We're going to do a little bit more about that tough love. Stay tuned for that next week. How much time we got today?
We got 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Okay, that's fine. So is there anything else about your story, about the hard part? Is this being resolved with your wife in mind, your ex-wife? How do you resolve that, or is it still just a really hard thing and you don't know how to think about that?
I've kind of wrote it off.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, and what I mean is, I've seen my son, and he loves me. I've
Yeah.
seen my daughter, she loves me. They
Mhm.
just take their mom's side. And I don't know what their mom's side is because they won't tell me.
They won't even talk.
So I just gave up. I said, well, God will figure out what's going on. He'll let me know.
Yeah.
And I can't keep worrying about it because all it's going to do is make my life miserable.
So you've resolved to not let it eat you up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to let them keep me down.
And
no.
you're not doing drugs. You're not an alcoholic.
No, I'm clean.
So that's a wonderful answer to somebody's struggle. And we're going to have more coming up next week at the Morning Mouth Part 2 Story Time.
Cool.
I hope you have a wonderful day and reach out to those you love.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining
Thanks,
us today.
Jody. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.
See you all
Glad to
next
be
week.
here.
Take care, guys.